We plan our days, our weeks, our entire lives around the clock, right? But what if the thing we're measuring, time itself, isn't really what we think it is? What if it's all just an illusion?
Let's kick things off with this really powerful idea. Time is described as being like a ghost. Think about it. It's not actually there. You can't touch it, but it's always chasing us, making us run, making us feel like we're constantly out of time.
So, that leads to the big question we're exploring today. What if this ghost isn't even real? What if time is just the biggest illusion we've ever known? To get to the bottom of this, we're going to have to look at it from a few different angles. We'll dive into physics, our own psychology, and even consciousness itself.
All right, to start pulling at this thread, we've got to go big. We're going to look all the way out into the cosmos and deep down into the very fabric of reality. And our guide for this part of the journey, well, it's none other than the great Albert Einstein.
So the first big crack in our whole idea of a single universal time comes from something called time dilation. And believe me, this concept is absolutely mind-bending. Einstein basically showed us that time isn't this constant, steady tick-tock that's the same for everyone everywhere. Nope, it's actually a flexible, kind of stretchy thing that can be warped and pulled by gravity.
What this really means is that time literally, and I mean literally, flows at different speeds depending on where you are. And this isn't just some crazy theory, it's a real measurable thing. Get this, your feet are aging just a tiny, tiny bit slower than your head right now, all because they're closer to the Earth's gravity. How wild is that? It just goes to show there is no single master clock ticking away for the entire universe.
And like I said, this has real-world consequences. The GPS in your phone, it only works because we account for this. The clocks on those satellites in orbit are running faster than ours down here. If we didn't constantly correct for it, your maps would be off by like 10 kilometers every single day. And then you have the extreme end of the scale, a black hole. Get close to one of those, and gravity gets so intense that time would stretch out forever. It would basically just stop. So yeah, physical time is definitely not absolute.
Okay, so we've established that physical time can bend and warp. But what about the time we feel? You know, the clock inside our own heads. Well, it turns out that one is even more elastic.
I mean, we've all been there, right? You're on an amazing vacation, and suddenly it's over. It just flew by in a flash. But then you have a really tough week at work, and every single day feels like it's dragging on for an eternity. It's like our emotions are an elastic ruler for time, constantly stretching it out or shrinking it down. Let's look at this story for a second. Imagine you have this wonderful, happy time with someone you love. Then they're gone, and that period of separation feels just endless. It's filled with despair and fear. But then they come back, and in that moment of reunion, you start to question everything. Was the pain really about how long you were apart, or was it about your experience of that time? All of a sudden, the power of that painful memory just fades. So, all of this, it's all building up to a really startling conclusion. What if time itself actually needs a witness? What if it can't exist without someone or something there to observe it? Let's try a little thought experiment. Imagine you're floating in complete and total darkness. There's nothing moving, it's perfectly silent, there is absolutely nothing to see, hear, or feel. Would you experience any sequence of events? Would time have any meaning at all? Probably not, right? Without change, there's nothing to measure. And that leads us to this incredibly profound idea: the very sequence of events that we call time might only pop into existence when a conscious mind is there to experience reality. Without an observer, maybe there's no past, present, or future. Maybe there's just a static, unchanging now. Here's how that might work. Think about it. Observation isn't instant. For your brain to even register that something has changed, there has to be a tiny, tiny fraction of a second, a little lag between the before and the after. And that very perception of change, that tiny delay, that might be what creates the entire sensation of time flowing forward that we all feel. Okay, let's pull all this together. If time can be bent by gravity, stretched and shrunk by our feelings, and maybe, just maybe, needs our consciousness to even exist in the first place, then what on earth are we supposed to do with that information? How does that change how we live? Well, this idea actually connects to a very old philosophical concept called Maya. It's this idea that the world we perceive with our senses, including that nice, neat, linear flow of past, present, and future, is really a kind of grand cosmic illusion. This really forces you to ask a pretty fundamental question. If the past is just a collection of memories in your head, and the future is just an idea, something that hasn't happened yet, then what's actually real? What part of that whole timeline can we truly hang on to?
The answer, of course, is the present moment, the now. That's it. That's the only thing we ever really have. It's the one single point where our consciousness is actually plugged into reality. It's where memories of the past matter and plans for the future are made. Everything else, it's just a story we tell ourselves.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. Thinking of time as an illusion, it doesn't make life meaningless. In fact, it does the opposite. It's incredibly empowering. It can free you from the weight of your past and the anxiety of the future. It lets you focus all of your energy and attention on the only time that ever really exists, right now. So the question is, how are you going to use it?